Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we come together to discuss a new anime. Probably not Gintama. Sorry, we'll get to that. It has to be mentioned. Anyway, we watch anime. We discuss like we're a book club. We turn our discussion over to our comment section to carry on the discussion because we are just three Bakas. We are discussing the hit anime of last year, Chainsaw Man. And to do that, I need the help of my co-host. First off, we have the chainsaw to my groovy. It's Jeremy.
Hey. So if you like this, I think maybe you might like Gantz. At least I did. I really like Gantz. So there's my anime for this episode.
Yeah. And then we also have the pus to my deadite. It's Jason.
It's Evil Dead Chainsaw.
Zombies.
Yeah, if you liked this anime, you probably won't like Kisniver.
But you want to call out Kisniver.
I've been like all week.
Do you feel like this is the polar opposite of Kisniver? Is that why?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Animation's good. It's
getting
interesting. The characters actually are something that you'd want to care about.
So Jason just gave it a 5. If that's all you came for, you can tune out now.
This guy just said his Studio Trigger didn't have good animation, but all right. And my name is Troy.
They've done better.
An anime I really enjoy that I would recommend is Neon Genesis Evangelion. All of it. Just all of it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right. So before we go to our spoiler section, we're going to talk about what we thought about Chainsaw Man in a non-spoilery way. So you can help decide if you haven't seen it, if you want to, or if you just want to listen to us ramble about it in a spoiler section later. And we're going to start with Jason, who chose this anime. Jason, what did you think of Chainsaw Man?
I've been jonesing for this anime since I saw it in the manga. And I don't read manga very often. But I had seen some sort of meme about one of the main characters, and it didn't quite make sense to me. And when I read more about it, I was like, this is fascinating. And so getting this in anime form was not just, it was a treat, but also someone asked, how much money do you need? And they're like, and they're like, okay, but I didn't give you a number. Yeah, I know, but it's okay. Like it's the animation's phenomenal. The story is phenomenal. I haven't had the feeling of more after an episode 12 in a long time, and I was just like shaking, like there's no more. So anyways, I really like this one.
All right, Jeremy, what'd you think?
Fantastic anime. Thoroughly enjoyed the action sequences. The animation was great. The characters were really fun and surprisingly light for this anime, but at the same time they could also get really, really heavy and melancholic. So I was really impressed at the emotional spectrum that this anime has, while still wanting to bring you back. Like it wasn't even that they were going crazy and had too much in any one direction. It was well balanced too. The comedy is very well done too, well executed. So I think it's really good. Perhaps the only thing I could complain about, and this isn't really a complaint, it's more of just a preference thing. If you don't want to see a lot of gore, you won't like it. But if you can put up with the gore, it's really good. And I guess that's why I pointed out Gantz earlier, is because same thing. Like if you can put up with the gore, it's really interesting. So, but that might be a big turnoff for a lot of people.
I'll have to say just real quick about the gore. I've seen some Gantz.
Mm-hmm.
Gantz's gore feels very almost like realistic. It's adding to the story of the horror element of this.
Mm-hmm.
The gore of this almost feels Evil Deadish. Like it's meant to not just enhance the scene, but also it's a little over the top.
Mm-hmm.
and I never felt disgusted by the gore, which there's been plenty of anime that I have. So I don't know. There's something different about this. I don't know if you guys felt similar.
Intestines always get me, but
Oh.
that's in both anime. So yeah.
I'm dead inside and nothing bothers me anymore.
This is post
Look,
Super
I'm
Bowl.
sorry the Super Bowl didn't go your way.
Actually, no, that's not why. And I didn't really have a rooting interest. Yes, one of the teams is a rival of my actual team, but my team didn't even make the playoffs. I've been mostly checked out of football. Super Bowl is fun. No, I should take it back. There's one thing in here that was so gory that I squealed every time it happened. But we'll get to it in the spoiler section.
Okay.
For my thoughts, really good anime. I already watched the first 4 episodes, which I've mentioned in older episodes. My kids were like, "Oh, Dad, you got to watch this. Just watch this with us." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it for the podcast." They're like, "No, now with us." Okay. So we watched the first 4 episodes, and it was still good. It was carried through. It does have the unlimited budget, which I'm sure helps. I worry a little bit about they're breaking a lot of shonen battle anime rules in this, which is great. But there's certain ones I'm like, I'm not sure you can get away with that. It's kind of like the thing you're supposed to do. And also, it does feel like it's competing for space with Jujutsu Kaisen a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Little bit.
A little.
I'll have to say there was no tournament arc.
Yet. But there was training. But that's what I kind of mean. Like, there's a training session, but it's almost all off camera. And
it's hilarious.
And it's hilarious. And we don't see them like achieve anything in the training arc. So when they get stronger, we learn about it later. So yeah, it's just different. But that's not a complaint either. I kind of like that they're going for something new. There are just some worries I have. And then I kept thinking like, man, it would be really good if Jujutsu Kaisen didn't exist. It would help it. All right, so with that said, now we need to talk about the OP and the 12 endings that this anime shows. So, your guys' thoughts?
It was fire. Oh my god, that opening song is so good, and with that unlimited budget, good god, the opening is so good. I love the beats that they take. There's like some real visceral moments in the OP that I'm just in love with. And also like they show a bunch of just like kind of the comedy elements of the in between. It gets a little sad later when you get back to the OP, and without spoilers, it's like, oh, but yeah, and then the EDs, like, they were all just great.
You have a favorite ED? Anyone that stood out? It's hard to remember because you only saw one. But
yeah. No, but I think episode 10, at the end of episode 10, it was kind of that almost iridescent, like orange and purple one. I liked what they were going for with that. There's some story beats in there, so I'm not going to say what, but I like that one specifically.
Mm-hmm. I don't have too much to add for the OP. I thought it was great. It actually took me a few episodes to start to enjoy the music, but it's great music. It just took me a little bit to get into it. I think my favorite outro was power dancing, rotoscoped dancing. It was great. I loved it.
That's episode 4.
Yeah,
end of episode 4.
Yeah, that one was great. But I love the fact that with each of these outros, they weren't just giving you a different set of images or a different, scenes from this particular episode. It was like they were experimenting with completely different styles, artistic styles, and that was really cool. Like there's some that, like the one I think you're talking about, Jason, is the one where it's almost like it's a negative image, where everything is like black, but they've got like iridescent edges and stuff. And that is really cool. And then there's another one where it's like liquid just reforming in a black background, and so many others that are just really, really, they're so different from each other. It was like walking through an art house or something.
So I don't usually watch other people's videos or contents about an anime before we watch it, but I had watched, because I'd already watched it at this time, Mother's Basement's video on the OP of this, and it's fascinating how complex the OP actually is.
Mm.
There are a ton of movie references, especially in the first half. Those are all like scenes from movies with the Chainsaw Man characters placed into them. At the bowling alley, rubbing the bowling ball, that's straight out of Big Lebowski. That's the movie they did in Big
Yeah.
Lebowski. So them crawling on the table, that's a scene from Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Stuff like that. So it's showing off their love of film, which they use to inspire a lot of storytelling. And then the one that really gets me is when they're in the OP, they're showing that battle with the chain demon. We never meet it. It's just a demon. And the Chainsaw Man gets thrown 3 times right away and makes 3 craters. The 3 craters are CSM for Chainsaw Man. So, like, but you can't tell unless you pause and see the C, the S, and the M. Like,
Oh
so
my
it's
God.
that level of detail. But honestly, for the music, that bass like kicks in and it's like boom, 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 boom. Oh, so good. Yeah, so I highly recommend watching that video because he goes through all the layers that are built into it, especially how there's a testicle joke in it that you have to understand all the subtext to get the testicle joke, which is so stupid. Anyway, OP's great.
Well, that's
Watch Mother
really
Basement.
interesting because I did not get the impression, just based on the content of the anime, that it was had anything to do with like riffing off of other films. Maybe that's just my lack of film knowledge. But is that maybe something that they did artistically in the studio, or was that something that was?
I think it's the love. I think the original creator of Chainsaw Man has a love of movies, so they
It was an
put that in.
opportunity to do that. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
And then for the EDs, my favorite was the end of episode 7, which they re-show like the drinking party, but in like 16-bit video game form. And then they show the kiss over and over again with rainbows. I really like that one. I felt they captured the mood they ended with perfectly. But Ep 4 with the rotoscope dancing was also really good.
Yeah.
All right, before we go on to spoilers now, our announcement for the next anime we will be watching, and we need to discuss Gintama. So we're going to be watching Mob Psycho 3 for our next anime. We don't usually go more than 2 podcast episodes for an anime, but Mob Psycho 3 is not only, it's not like a continuing story, it's almost like it's the third in a trilogy. It's almost its own thing, and it's also an ending. And also, it's
We
our
also
rules. We'll break them.
Yeah, we also break our rules every once
Yeah,
in a while. We re-zero.
But I
We'll
bring that up.
rationalize why, though.
I bring that up because we've gotten a lot of feedback, especially on the YouTube channel, about our Gintama review. Very fair. One thing, I think our format does not fit that. Does that do that show justice, especially for its fans?
347 episodes.
So, like, we've been asking, what should if we watch Gintama again, where should we watch? And like I saw one suggestion, it's like maybe you should do 24 more episodes. We're not gonna.
No.
We can't give Gintama that much time. No, as much as we want to do what our listeners want, and we do actually try to take fan requests as often as we can and stuff like that. Again, I think our show just isn't fair to it, no matter what we do, because we can only take a sample size of, from what's been described to us, is a series of long running jokes that the longer you go with it, the better and funnier it gets. But so if you just jump in the middle, you're not going to get all this context. So we're still discussing what we're going to do with Gintama if we're going to bring it back. But do know that we are looking at it, but we do have to limit it. And we are just kind of aware that we can't be fair to it the way it deserves to be. And never take our reviews as like invalidation of your own opinions, because we are idiots, and the show also it can only do what it can do. So Gintama is great.
So says Troy.
No, don't write that down. Just like put anonymous. Instead anonymous.
He doesn't want his name on that.
All right. Now let's go to our spoiler section for Chainsaw Man. So if you have not seen Chainsaw Man, which we should be the last people ever who saw it because we're the only ones who should be waiting. But if you haven't seen it yet, well, obviously we all recommend that you do. But we're about to spoil everything if you haven't. All right, Chainsaw Man. So it's set in modern Japan, except for in this world, demons just exist. They just do. And there is a demon for literally everything. Every noun, every abstract idea, there is a demon.
Anything you can fear. And that's what they said, is fear creates them and empowers them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the fear does create them.
Uh-huh.
Because I was thinking more of the power, but you're right. Fear does create them. They did say that. So, but there's like a turnip demon.
Yeah, tomato demon at the very
tomato
beginning.
demon, the very beginning.
Cracked me up. And they don't give you any like forewarning about why the devils or the demons, what they're based on or how they came to be. So when they do show this thing, I thought by its design, okay, this is actually going to be a danger. This will be a threat. But it went down off screen. It was so easy.
Also, so one thing I noted is like, even though demons sometimes just show up and attack and cause major destruction, most people are just going about their lives, and dealing with demons is just a thing. There's a public service government agency that deals with them, but there's also private companies. It's almost like extermination or having a plumber come to take care of demons.
Private security.
Right.
Yep. It's almost like they're more like brownies, right? Like little mythical fairies most of the times that cause mischief but not any real threat until you get certain fears that are more founded in something that a lot of people fear. And then that becomes a big enough threat where you have to have contractors or you have to have the government intercede. So yeah, tomato. Like how many people are afraid of a tomato? How powerful is that going to be?
Which to me is one of the very first battle shonen anime rules that this breaks, because our main character Denji, who we're about to discuss, he already kills them as one of the ways he earns money. And usually it's like, oh, I've never heard of demons. Character must explain it to me out loud on screen so that audience can understand. And then I will find out later, my father was one and I've inherited all these powers. That's every other anime.
Yeah.
No, Denji's already killing them, fully aware of them. But we meet Denji. He lives in a shack hovel. He's hugely in debt to the Yakuza.
Because of
his dad. Does odd jobs, has sold a lot of organs, a testicle, an eye, and
kidney,
to try to raise money. And we see him go kill this turnip demon with his loyal best friend, Puchita, who is a dog with a chainsaw sticking out his face.
And it is a demon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he's killing demons with his demon pet.
Yep.
And it's the cutest little thing ever.
It really is.
So that's how we start with Denji. Like he has enough money that he's like, we're gonna have to ration our bread slices tonight, and he just dreams of getting to kiss a girl and eat toast and jam because that would be the good life to him. So your guys' thoughts on Denji?
I think he is a fantastic character. It's interesting I really like his perspective of what quote unquote the good life is, or like necessities are luxuries to him because he's so poor and so down and out. And that kind of perspective is really rare in a longer running fashion. And what I mean by that is, we've seen it in other anime where, you got someone that's poor, they see something that's, just normal and they see it as great. And then that point has been made and then the anime moves on. Denji over and over talks about how he's content to be fed. like, and so that plus his personality of, um, being a 16-year-old kid. I really enjoyed that aspect of him, like, because there's a lot of decisions he makes that are like, yeah, that's what an impulsive teenager would do.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of a breath of fresh air to me when it comes to shonen, just in the sense that he's his stuff is so juvenile and silly and simplistic that he's going after what he wants. Yet he's coming at it with the same veracity and the same intensity that you get from a standard shonen protagonist. And I thought that was a really nice change, because to me it kind of becomes a bit of a trope or cliche, and I hate that word usually because it's like an artsy fartsy thing in my head, at least, to call something cliche. But I think it kind of fits here, just in the sense that you see it so often that I want to get stronger becomes the motivating force. Or, like Denji even points out, I want revenge, or I want to do the ultimate right thing, and I'm
protect my
motivated.
family.
Yeah, protect my family, or be altruistic, or right, all of these other motivations that we see in every other shonen. And Denji's just like, I'm not that character. I am something completely different, something maybe you haven't seen before. And I think that's what makes me like him as a character so much. And he's very consistent about it. Like you were saying, Jason, he doesn't become accustomed to the things once he gets them. Once he reaches that state, like at the bottom of the pyramid, he comes up a notch. He's like, no, I'm happy right here. this keeps me happy. I don't need to climb any higher.
Well,
You
even
know?
his answer is, which side are you loyal to? Whichever side's taking care of me.
Yeah, yeah. Which kind of makes him it adds a sense of mystery, and because you get the sense that there's more of a that he has a bit more of a human nature still. But then there's times where he exposes to you that maybe he doesn't. And
Mm-hmm.
he's even noticing it and wondering. And that I really like, because it makes me uncertain about where the writer is going to go with this character, whether he's going to stay good, whether he'll have a bad spell. Yeah, and just seeing some of the things that they do in the storyline so far, nothing would surprise me at this point, because I can't predict it. Anything could surprise me.
I think one thing I like about it as well is he seems to be easily manipulated
Uh-huh.
because of his nativity and his contentment with a lower standard of living, which opens the door to storytelling that I haven't seen before. So,
Right.
and it seems reasonable that these things would happen and not just shoehorned in because the writer wanted it to do this thing.
And he's a character who's been treated like a worm for so long. The fact that he's now being treated like a dog is this huge upgrade to him. And he's like, oh my God, they're so nice to me. It's definitely, I don't want to complain about it, because I actually agree. It is very fresh and different. It's original, and I do like that. When we did Jujutsu Kaisen, I had a complaint about, when I watch a shonen battle anime, I'm watching it for a reason. I go to that genre for a very specific reason, and it's mostly motivation. And in Jujutsu Kaisen, to get stronger, they sat around and watched movies, and I was like, I already do that. I need you to make me want to get on the exercise bike. That's what I need you for, shonen battle anime. This also, and that's probably my issue with Denji, is what I'm looking for when I watch this type of genre. And Chainsaw Man's so good, it really does get a pass. I'm not watching this because I want to watch a shonen battle anime. I'm watching this because it's good. But if I was coming to this for a shonen battle anime, Denji is not the hero I want him to be. I'm watching My Hero Academia with my son right now. We're like midway through season 3, and he's been playing basketball. And in a basketball game, after like 2 seasons of My Hero Academia, he got hurt. He had a crash or bonk on the head or something. And I saw him start to get upset like he does, and then like get this focus and start running. And I asked him later, and he was like, "Yeah, I was thinking like Deku. Gotta be like Deku. If he can smash and break his arm, but keep going, I gotta keep going." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why we watching My Hero Academia. I wanted you to
Life lesson.
Yeah, keep going, find that perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna find that with Denji. Denji
No. Don't learn anything from Denji.
and it was really off-putting in the first couple episodes because I'm like, okay, but they're gonna reveal like a heart of gold underneath, right? Because like Ichigo comes on the scene, he's kind of a jerk to everybody, but he's super loyal and does the right thing. No, not Denji. In the final episode, he walks away from a teammate in danger, like, I'm not getting off the elevator. Stupid.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yes.
And it is great. I don't want it to come off as a complaint, because in Chainsaw Man, in the context of Chainsaw Man, it's perfect and it is original and it's unique and it is good. But because of the genre this is technically a part of, again, that's just not what I'm at that genre for. But Chainsaw Man is good enough that I do give it a pass and give Denji a pass.
Yeah, and I can
He is interesting.
I can see crop dusting portions of shonen battle anime, but like there's just so much more to this than just straight up shonen battle. Like Jujutsu Kaisen, that fits in the box. My Hero Academia, that fits in the box. This doesn't. It's almost a round peg trying to fit into the box of battle anime, and I think we'll get more into it as we get further in.
I just hopped over to my anime list because I couldn't remember whether it was like what rating exactly it had, and the rating is R17 plus. So I think that even though it's a battle anime, the target audience would be older people that wouldn't any longer be looking for like life lessons, shall we say, from it. So I think it could also skate by on that excuse as well. Like it serves a little bit of a different purpose, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
All right. So we see Denji. We see him talk to his Yakuza boss, who basically reminds him that he's worthless. We get some flashbacks of him meeting Buchida, who was hurt, and Denji gave him some blood. So we learn demons heal through blood intake. Denji gave him some blood, and we
also learn that demons aren't always like mindlessly hostile.
Right.
Some can actually like respond favorably to you because of a kind act you give to them or make toward them.
And we see him wake up in the night from a dream, and he's coughing up blood, and he remembers like, my mom had a sickness, and it looks like I got it too. And so again, we have a one-eyed, one-testicled, some kind of heart disease character. Things are not going well for this guy, and like he's just like, I just wish for once I could be with a girl.
Mm-hmm. And he even talked, like when he's saying that, he's talking about like cuddling, like spooning, and just he's not even talking about I want to cop a feel or make out or anything.
Later.
Yeah, that comes later.
The Yakuza boss picks him up, takes him to a warehouse for a job to kill a demon. And when they get there, he's stabbed in the back by the Yakuza, and it's also the sword also goes through Puchida. And he finds out the Yakuza has made a deal with Zombie Demon.
Yes, Zombie Demon.
Zombie Demon. And have all been turned into zombies. And these zombies hunt him down, and they chop him up into little bits, and they throw him in the trash.
I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought, okay, how's he going to get out of this? He's going to escape, right? What? No way.
So Puchida revives because some of Denji's blood gets into her? I don't know. Chainsaw.
I think it's him. I don't know, though.
Puchida. And so Puchida revives and had been given permission to take Denji's body by Denji. Like, hey, when I die, just take my body and have fun with it. Do whatever you want with it. But actually brings Denji back to life, replacing his heart with himself. So Denji revives, and he now has the pull string for the chainsaw sticking out of his chest where his heart is. And he transforms and attacks the zombies, and we get the full form of Chainsaw Man, which is his head is literally a chainsaw with a handle. Guys, don't have a handle as part of your head.
I know. It sure makes it easier when people have to transport part of your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, he's got a chainsaw for a head, but it's got big teeth. Look, you probably have seen him. If you haven't seen Chainsaw Man and you're like an anime fan, weird rock you live under.
I gotta say, it was a really nice callback to the awesome character design from No Gun Life.
Awesome.
Yeah, clearly.
No, because this had a mouth and eyes, and it still had.
Oh, he had a mouth, remember? It had big teeth just like Chainsaw Man.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I love
This
it
is-
when these,
this is
inanimate
better.
objects are used as heads.
This actually looked like a head with a chainsaw
Yeah.
coming out of it.
Instead of a
sort
gun
of.
with a mouth.
Sort of.
Anyways, can we move on?
Yeah. So
There are clear similarities. I had to say it.
I do love how the chainsaw comes out like just split down his arm,
Yeah.
not like
And
Right.
Wolverine style or out the knuckles.
I also noticed that it's not always consistent. Like sometimes it's going between like, two fingers on each side of the blade. And then other times, and you really see this in a person that he fights later, other times it'll split and like come out the wrist. It's not always in the same spot.
Huh. I missed that.
Yeah. Or maybe that was just something for the other guy, but I definitely noticed it in the other guy, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. It can like, it's basically cutting your hands apart. And that's why he's always saying, like, I lose a lot of blood when I'm in this form.
Anyway, he cuts all the zombies up.
And he's having a
Big-
blast doing it.
Big old
Yeah. Freedom.
episode 1 budget should be blown for most anime with this shot scene, but
Yep.
they do use a lot of CGI, and maybe that helped them save a lot of money. But I thought the CGI looked good. A lot of people
Yep.
have debated about whether they like it or not. Just for me, I was absolutely fine with the CGI.
I was too.
No, the fact that they didn't try to do a 2D 3D mix, I think really helped, because then none of the fight scenes looked off-putting. Because the entire thing is 3D. So
There's a particular fight where he almost like flails his arms as he's running, and I loved it. I thought it looked so much more, the motions looked so real in comparison to what I'm used to seeing, which is a bit more elegant and graceful is what you usually see.
After killing all the demons and all the zombies, public safety arrives. The public safety demon hunters and their boss, Makima, who finds Denji, and he transforms back, and she's like, oh, should I kill you or keep you? And she offers him food, so he agrees to be kept.
one thing I found heartwarming at first, and now that I think about it, really freaky. He's in his chainsaw form, and he kind of says, hug me, and she immediately hugs him.
Uh-huh.
And then he melts away and comes back into Denji form, and I'm like, okay, now I know you've got a screw loose.
Yeah. Where's your danger sense?
Right. Wait, we come to find out she doesn't need danger sense.
Yeah.
So, Makima, what do we think of Makima?
Oh my god. I think we haven't seen a quarter, if the half, of Makima. I think she is basically a calculating serial killer. She's charismatic. She's able to hold authority without ever raising her voice or getting upset. And her power set is really terrifying.
Yeah.
And nobody knows. So that's how demon hunters work. We're going to come to find out there's this demon hunter organization. The way they hunt demons is they make pacts with demons that they've captured. And everyone seems to either know or not know who has packed with which demons until they actually see their powers. Even though some people have seen Makima work, nobody knows who her demon is that she's packed with, which theory, I wonder if she is a demon.
Yeah.
But
Also, I think she's packed with more than one. I think she has contracts with
yeah,
several.
I think you're right. But as much time as we get with her, which is quite a bit, especially for like a higher ranking official within this organization, there's a lot of mystery around her still. And so fascinating character. I really love the way those characters are written. And she's just when it zooms in kind of on her face a little bit, you see those eyes, it's really unsettling.
Yes. She has a certain way of dealing, especially with Denji, where she is essentially just manipulating him, knowing exactly what he needs in order for her to keep him in check. Because right now, the thing that's motivating Denji, at least for this season, the thing that's motivating Denji is kind of just the simplistic impulse of juvenile testosterone and experiencing what he hasn't experienced before.
He's horny.
He's a horny boy, and and so she's basically playing on that and using it, because when things don't go very well for him and he starts to lose his motivation because of those things, she repeatedly has to swoop in and manipulate him to bring him back and get him back on track. And it's fascinating because if you don't think of it as manipulation, you might think of it as the way that he does, where like, oh, there is some future potential, in a relationship for them. Like, he genuinely believes that because he's, that's his motivation. Eventually he wants to get with her. But that she is just a very manipulative. I don't know if she's evil or if she's good. There's another character that we meet in the latter half of the season, and he clearly doesn't know whether she's evil or good. And and he's known her for a very long time, it seems like. So I'll say it right now. I'm suspicious that she's the fox demon because of her eyes. It just clicked at some point where they were like, oh, the fox demon is in this location and we're over here, so the fox demon can't reach us to help. And there was something she did where it was like she was reaching far, far away. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's what the fox demon does, is like reaches into distant areas to help, but not too distant. And so I don't know. I don't know if she is or not, but that's my suspicion. But they did say she has pacts. We don't know what her pacts are or contracts are. So then the question is, does she really have multiple contracts? Does she have any contracts? If they don't know what they are, then it might not be more than one. It might not even be one, because they don't know. So I am completely clueless with her, but at this point, I like her, and I tend to lean more toward her being on the good guy's side. I'm probably wrong. I'm probably wrong.
Man, so, I mean, she's the one who treats Denji like a dog, right? But to him, that's the best he's ever been treated. But we're watching it like, that's straight up doing him dirty. And like you said, she's offering him whatever she needs to offer him to keep him in line, and is very good at offering it.
Yeah.
We watch a lot of anime with a lot of bouncy girls, a lot of what a 13-year-old would think is sexy.
Right.
Chainsaw Man knows how a woman can be sexy with just her hand. She doesn't need to be bouncing out of an outfit or anything where I'm like, I'm uncomfortable watching this. I'm a full-grown man watching an animated series. Okay.
A little bit too sensual with that hand there.
It was so good.
Can I just say, there are so many scenes, and the scene that you're talking about, I just go, is this rotoscoped? Is this rotoscoped? Like, yes. I'm constantly asking myself this question, because especially that scene, it looks so good, and you are so uncomfortable.
Yep.
But back to my point is that she's using these tactics to manipulate Denji, while at the same time being like, if you don't do what we say, we will immediately kill you. Right. There is no loyalty. There is not a thought in her head that makes me think she actually cares what happens to him beyond what she needs him to do. Mm-hmm. So whether she's fighting
him in a half second. Right.
So whether she's fighting for humankind or demonkind, I don't know. But she's definitely not fighting for Denji kind.
Yeah, no.
And so I'm listing her as bad in my head. But man, she is fascinating to watch. Every second she's on the screen, she steals every second.
Yes.
Great character. Fantastic character.
Yep.
All right. They go to breakfast. Again, she has the conversation with, "You're my dog. If you get off the leash, you will be put down." She buys him some food. He passes out, but she wakes up and feeds it to him, and he barks while he does it.
Yep.
It's funny too because he has this moment of like clarity where he's like, "Is this really what I should be getting myself into?" And then she offers him basically, "Yeah, I'll feed you every day," and then he's like, "Bark."
I'll be your dog.
Because
perfect.
he's so used to being treated so terribly that this level of treatment just to be fed.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so they go to the headquarters, and she introduces him to his new partner, but really his boss, his squad leader. And this is Aki.
Hello, Augie.
And we're going to talk about Aki. I'm going to give you guys your chance, but I just want to say what happens with Aki to kind of set him up.
Oh my god.
They go out he takes him out on the street, takes him into an alley, and punches him, throws his cigarette butt on him, and then spits on it out, tells him, "You need to quit. You don't have the right motivation to do this job. You don't care about it, so you're just going to get yourself killed anyway. Get out of my sight." And Denji takes offense to that and kicks him in the nuts with the line, "When I fight a man, it's nuts or nothing." And then they have like this quick fist fight where Denji continuously nut shots him into unconsciousness and then has to drag him back to Makima. Your guys' thoughts on Aki?
I another fascinating character. Really, like if you want a protagonist with motivation, this is the dude. He is so focused on his goal. There is nothing he's willing to give up if he can give it up. And that level of dedication, I think, is the kind of overboard dedication we don't get to see very often, because we always see like protagonists like, I'll put everything on the line and like, no, he is giving up body parts, years of his life, friends, whatever he has to do to continue on. And sometimes it's not willing, but at the end of the day, he does have a heart of gold, but it's so driven by revenge that he literally is willing to give up literally anything. But it's funny because in this first scene with him, one, Makima does not tell him he's like Chainsaw Man or that he's got a
Right.
demon heart. She doesn't tell him anything, so he just thinks he's just some normal kid.
Yeah.
Uh,
A punk.
second, he comes off like a Sasuke. Like
Sasuke.
Sasuke. I'm not so much I'm a badass, but I'm the jerk that's going to get you in line or tell you to F off kind of character. And he is not that from like beyond this episode. He's just he's really he is there for his team. So yeah, I found this character fascinating.
Yeah. I would say that he's who I would expect to be the protagonist in any other
Yeah.
shonen.
That's
Yeah.
a,
Yep.
I was gonna say the anime calls it. I was actually getting ready to say the same thing in my thing. You go ahead.
Okay. I did like how they make him suffer. Like, it's not enough that in his background he suffered, but the tragedy of season 1 really affects him the most, more than any other character. And I thought that was fascinating because he's already got, like, his motivation is revenge due to tragedy. So this is like just compounding his character, hardening him, turning him into like crystal, basically. Which is what you would see in, maybe a very serious shonen, but I doubt that most shonen would even commit to killing off a character as close as that character was to him. So you might not even see that in another anime. But yeah, I enjoyed his character a lot. And I also liked how at the very end, in the last episode, he gets to engage in the ball kicking as well.
So when I made all my, let's call them complaints, they're not really complaints, but all my complaints about Denji, I should have also noted the anime is fully aware of them and created Aki just to tell me how wrong I am. Because just like Jeremy pointed, Aki is typical shonen character doing typical shonen character things. The anime calls him out for it. Has characters being like, "Quit acting like a shonen character. It's pissing me off. You're being stupid." And he suffers because of it, while Denji, who's just living his best life to him, is going through it just fine. So that actually makes Denji a lot better. Aki, it's a great way to say, yeah, we know we broke the rules. Deal with it. Here's what that rule would look like. It's not as good.
Yeah. We're trying to do something else. So at that face value of that, did you enjoy it?
But I love his character. I love the normalcy of his character. The scenes we get of him cooking, doing laundry. Never seen a shonen character like loading a laundry machine before. And something about that to me that really was special.
And for it to look just so damn
yes,
good.
Of course, it looks great.
Well, no, and the only reason I call it out is because stuff like this, you might see scenes like this in other anime, but it's very much just kind of run of the mill animation. Just his movements, the way he grinds the coffee, loads the soap into the washing machine, it's just so phenomenal.
Puts his hair up in a top knot.
There was a scene, and it's actually Aki. It's when Denji's in the hospital, and the first time, and Aki steps through the hospital door and closes it. And I thought to myself, how often do you see a character actually walk visibly through a door? You see doors open, character leg move, and door closes now behind character, but there wasn't a whole lot of movement. There was just kind of a slide, move the picture forward and slide back. They shot this at an angle, or drew it at an angle, where you see his legs. Actually, he crosses the threshold. His shadow comes with him. He closes the door. I was like, that's actually a lot of animation to just show a guy go through a door, when you could have just shown Denji's face and let us hear the door sound and then switch to outside in the hallway, and we would have gotten the same thing. We're going to talk about flexing at a certain point, but this anime flexes that it can animate whatever it wants, whenever it wants, and all other anime can suck it.
And I love it, but I don't understand where the budget came from.
I tried to look up the budget too. Like, what? How much money did you guys get? I described it to my daughter as Daddy Warbucks lighting $100 bills on fire to light a cigar, because we can.
Yep.
All right. They have to live together, and we see
He is not happy about it.
Yeah, he's not happy about it, and we see him trying to get Denji into normal life.
Take a bath. Pick up on yourself.
They talk about characters pooping, and not as not in the Gintama way. we just like to make poop jokes. Or just like pooping is a normal part of life, and we're including everything in this anime. So
and they clean the toilet. Yeah,
yes, they clean the toilet. Yeah. They go on a case where they have to. When we learn about fiends, they have to kill a fiend, and he makes Denji kill this fiend. And fiends are demons who have taken over the corpse of a human body. They do this so they can hide better in human society. They're really the same thing, but there is a slight difference between demons and fiends.
Oh, and because I called it out before, at this point, Aki does know that has a demon heart and that he can transform.
And I think he's actually told him transform to take care of this guy, and is mad that he doesn't. But I also wanted to point out that fiends actually get a power reduction from the original devil form too. I discovered that on the wiki.
That makes sense.
Which it's explained by Power when she says, "You would have, if I was the blood demon,
right.
the blood devil."
And actually, it's the reason, because I remember asking, why be a fiend then? If you're a demon, it doesn't matter. But I do think it's so you can hide in human civilization. But then you have horns sticking out. Do they all have horns?
Well, there's the one guy that we see later that has a shark like top of his head.
Actually, in this scene, Aki calls out
says
that
they all
that's how
have-
you can. That's how you know they're a fiend. They have
Right.
horns coming out.
This
Well, that's
guy
how you
has
know she's one.
well, this
like Shark Guy doesn't.
but if the shark is his horn, it could just be he could just mean a protrusion. You have a protrusion because the guy they see here he has like a bug face. So I thought those were his horns were on the front of his face. I'm doing pincers with my fingers for you listeners. It looks very cool.
Best podcast.
I'm not sure cool would be the. Never mind.
Anyway, Aki kills him with the axe. And he does it really fast, so he doesn't feel any pain. And Aki scolds him of like, "We're not showing mercy to these things. We're killing, and we're killing we're killing with prejudice. And you need to be doing that. You can't be like friends with them." And Denji's like, "I'd be friends with one. I was friends with a demon. Like, he has no problems with that." And then Aki walks out, and Denji's like, "Actually, I was just trying to keep the girly mags clean because I saw him on the floor." And he picks them up. And really, that's probably the best characterization of Denji. He's telling you he's doing something for one reason, and then he tells himself he's doing something for another reason, and it's really hard to know which of the two reasons were true.
Mhm.
I really do wonder if there is any golden heart in there, because he does point out, I don't feel sad about something, but he was waiting in Aki's hospital room. And he's like, "I'm just here to steal your apples," and he leaves. But he waited till you woke up to steal them up and leave.
I think he's got a bravado that he sees himself as, but I don't think he's really that internally. And I think, so like for example, this scene here, I think the real reason was he didn't want the demon to feel pain. And then once the whole situation, he started rationalizing in his mind, my reasons for doing things are just as good as everyone else's. And through that, he's also rationalizing, I killed this thing that could have been my friend. Oh, I did it because I wanted these dirty magazines. But if you notice, that doesn't last very long. Like the whole idea, like that whole dirty magazine thing. Like he doesn't, I don't know if he took them home with him, but he seemed fairly disenchanted with it fairly quickly.
Well, that is another part of Denji. So it actually inspires his next goal. So he's like, "I've gotten my dreams. I have a place to live, and I get toast." His toast is every jam he can buy on one piece of toast at a time.
I think he calls it like super toast at one point.
Yeah. So he in his mind, he's achieved all his dreams. So he's looking at these girly mags. He's like, "I got a new dream. I'm gonna touch a boob. That's my dream." But we see later that even when that goal hits, he's like, "I don't feel satisfied," and then a new goal comes up. And I do think Denji is empty and looking for something to want.
Yeah, he
Almost-
hypes things up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But to go with what like what Jason's saying, I think there's that bravado of this is what I want and I'm good. That's my true dream. But I just don't think deep down it is.
Well, the one thing that really confuses me about his character is the fact that if it is just bravado, then when he has those internal conversations like he has at the hospital with Aki, he'd have no reason to have bravado there, because it's just him talking to himself, and he's literally looking for, is there anything? Do I feel anything? Would I feel anything if that person died? I don't think so. I don't feel anything. But then he thinks about Makima, and he's like, "Yeah, I would, but only for a little while, just a few days."
But then
I
at
don't
the
know.
end, he goes out of his way to punish a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's showing that he's upset about it. Hey, you did something bad, and you do need to be punished for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually agree with you, Jerry. I spent the whole time just like going back and forth. Is there another layer to Denji? Is he deeper? And I think you're supposed to. I think that's the whole point of Denji. Is he only what's on the face value, or is there something deeper? And I don't think he knows yet.
And I think this is the story of a young man who is searching for purpose, and he has not found it yet.
Yeah, and if we wanted to look at like the literal, or maybe you could even say like the literal heart that he has, whether or not that philosophically has affected him, right? Does
Has
having
it-
the devil
has
as
he
a
been-
heart made you less human?
Have you been turned into a sociopath because you're
Exactly.
possessed? All right. After this, he meets his new actual patrol partner, a fiend named Power.
Best character.
I love this scene so much. She walks in and he's like, "Hey, that's a fiend. That's got to be against the rules." And then he notices that it's a girl and he's like, "But I'm sure it's okay."
Yes. Yeah, and the camera keeps focusing on her chest, and we know what
Yep.
Denji's after, so we're seeing things through Denji's eyes constantly, and it's just cracking me up.
All right. Power. What do you guys think of her?
Jeremy, you go first.
I love this character. Power cracks me up because she's constantly she's a feral animal that is pretending to be a civilized human only because she's scared of being killed by Makima. Like that is it. We do find out in the first half here, like we're gonna go on an arc for her, and there is another motivating factor, but that factor disappears within like 2 or 3 episodes. So the real motivating factor for her is just she's afraid of Makima. And that is just barely enough to keep her in check. And she is so funny. I love there's a scene in the latter half where she wants to prove herself because she ran away, and she's not going to admit that she ran away because that would make her look bad. So she's like lying about that. She lies constantly. God, I love that. It is so funny. But she wants to prove herself again, and so she gets out and she's leaping around, and nobody's even watching her because she thinks people are there observing, but they're not. She's so in her own head and she's so full of herself that she's leaping around and she's like yelling out how awesome her fighting ability is and how this is making up for her running before. And it's such a great scene. And I love it when she does things like there's one point where yes, that's what it was. They're inside of a building and there was food set aside for everybody, and one of the characters comes in and he's like, "Where did all the food go? It's all gone." And then the camera pans over to Power, and she's standing there, she's got food all over her face, and she's just finishing eating it and everything, and she swallows and she says, "It wasn't me. It was Denji." Just dying. I love it. I love how the relationship evolves between her and Denji too. It feels very organic, feels very believable.
Yeah.
Very sibling-esque. I got very like
Yes.
brother and sister that hate each other, but also
Yep.
are joined at the hip now, and just 2 idiots in the same peapod.
Yes. And you see that in the OP really, really well. The way they look at each other when they're walking behind everybody. Love this character.
She is a fascinating character. And I think what's nice to have them side by side is you've got a human with a demon heart, and then you've got a demon that's taken over a human.
Mm-hmm.
And so one is clearly human with demon influence, and one is demon with no human influence. And the only influence that she gets is the outside world. And she, like you said, like we even get a backstory for her, and it's a little sympathetic,
Yeah.
but really, like she's just a monster on a leash. Because like you said, the only thing keeping her in check is the people around her can murder her at any moment.
Yeah.
So she just kind of goes along to get along, and she gets fed. But even near the end, there is no attachment to literally anyone in her life.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. I didn't think I would like that in a character, but the fact that like even to the bitter end, I'm a demon, I'm a fiend, and I will eat you all if you turn your back. It's very entertaining.
I'm only here because
Yep.
your team is winning, and I want to be on the winning team.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys are catching. Not only is she probably the funniest moments throughout the series, her relationship with Denji just works really well. I think my favorite moment of hers, her best characterization moment, is when they're stuck in the motel that we'll get to. And they're like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm thinking of ways to win the Nobel Peace Prize." They're like, "Wait,
Yes.
what?" She's like, "Then I can laugh at all the people who lost and murder the committee."
Yes.
And that's just perfect power. You don't. Nothing's ever what you think where you think it's going.
Yeah.
It's always dirty and gross anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, she was She was fantastic.
And you know she's all about image. All about image.
Yeah,
Because
watch
of
me.
this. Yes, and because of the scene where her pad falls out. Like, why, if she's so confident that she's so amazing and she's so powerful, why would she make an illusion to conform to some human expectation? But she does, because she has to present that image. She has to be amazing in every way. So funny.
I also like that whenever they're at a vending machine, she just presses her face up against it, like and no one will ever buy her a drink, and she won't buy a drink, but she's just so I want and like no one mentions it or talks about it. It's just every scene they are at near these vending machines, and she's just pressed up against them.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get her a drink. Anyway, they're sent out on patrol. She smells a demon and runs off and murders it in front of everybody, screaming like, watch me. And then this gets them in trouble. They left their zone. They weren't supposed to help with this. And Makima scolds them. Is like, if you guys can't work as a team, you will be eliminated. But I'm sure it'll be fine. So Denji's all upset, and then Power is explaining like, no, I hate demons, but I also hate humans. The only thing I like is my cat Meowie. And I lost my cat Meowie. Denji's like, well, the only thing I like is I want to touch a boob. She's like, well, if you help, and he's like, and I hate cats because I had a dog. She's like, well, if you help me save my cat, I'd let you grab my chest. And he's like, cats are great. Cats are the best. Who would steal a cat? We need to save your cat.
Yep.
So they get on a train, and she's talking about like how she loved this cat and giving him the sob story.
What a story it is, too.
I forget it too.
Oh my gosh. It just goes into her background of how she's this naked, feral girl that is going around butchering everything. You
Right.
see
Cows,
every animal.
bears.
Yes, decapitated, and she's just gnawing on it. And this scrawny cat shows up, and she's like, oh, I want to eat you, but you're too scrawny. I'm going to fatten you up. And so as she starts feeding the cat gets fatter, and she starts to,
More
oh wow,
lovely.
you're not screaming in terror because I'm killing you. I'm not used to this weird sound. And then
Also, this does show us that Power has huge amount of pain resistance. Because if a cat jumps on me when I'm bare-chested, I'm screaming like a banshee. That is the worst. This cat's always jumping up on him. No claws? No way. That's not what a cat does.
Oh.
They're all claws.
And then a bat demon steals her cat because he's injured and he needs human blood to heal. And so he goes, bring me a human. I'll give you your cat back.
Okay, just give away the twist. Sure.
Well, that was her backstory.
No, we don't find out about
No, she does not
that
tell
part.
that. She doesn't say that part.
Spoiler
She's
alert.
tricking Denji. No, we were there. I'm just joshing you. But there is one extra scene, which is Makima talking to her bosses about, yeah, I got this new chainsaw devil and I got this new fiend, and they're we're keeping him on a tight leash. And then when she leaves, this is the scene where she talks with Aki. He's like, why Chainsaw Man? She's like, do you know how demon powers work? It's about the fear. And the more the humans fear something, the more powerful it is. Thus, chainsaw would be pretty good. Because apparently we're all afraid of chainsaws.
I'm afraid of a chainsaw.
Yeah.
I saw in a failed video this guy was chainsawing a beam, and it like bucked and almost got him in the face, and I was terrified.
Might have been a demon.
Probably was.
All right, then we go back to Power and Denji, and guess what? It was a trick, and the Bat Demon demanded she bring a human. So she knocks Denji out. He starts to figure it out. She knocks him out and drags him in the house. The Bat Demon squeezes him like a grape and drinks his blood. But he has demon blood, so he's all pissed off that it's not good. So now he's like, I'm going to go eat some humans to get this taste out of my mouth. But he grows his arm back. But then he eats Meowie, who's in a bird cage and all, and then he eats Power.
Okay, I'm confused by a couple of things here. Like, one of them is he drinks Denji's blood, and that does repair him. That does heal him. And so that's where we learn that demons can drink other demons' blood,
right, and
it will repair them. And that does come into play later when Chainsaw Man does that. Yes. But why is Power completely like... Okay, the way he swallows her, it looks like he didn't chew.
But she
Right.
doesn't.
But when she comes back out after Chainsaw Man frees her, she's paralyzed, basically. She can't move.
Right.
So what is it that injured her so badly or drained so much of her ability? She doesn't look injured. So I was
She
just
doesn't.
confused about that.
Maybe he did crush her though, and just not really visible.
Oh,
just
maybe
squeezed
it's
her hard.
structural damage.
'Cause there is a
Okay.
scene later. It's when Master starts training them, and he breaks both their necks, and then just drops
Yeah.
them on the ground, and they're frozen. I'm like, why aren't they getting up? And then he mentions,
That's true.
I broke your neck, and I'm like, oh, okay. I guess that would be kind of hard for me to see.
Yeah.
But it could be something similar,
That makes sense. Okay.
especially
Okay.
since damage isn't permanent.
Yeah, that was my confusion there.
Yeah. Bat Demon goes to town to kill humans, and he looks down, and Chainsaw Man's on his leg, and Denji bites him and drinks his blood, and then is able to turn into Chainsaw Man. Now this battle ends up in the city. They end up crashing into a building. But what's really interesting, especially since we just got a scene talking about humans and their fear determines a demon's strength. But then Chainsaw Man is coming across humans, and some he's warning away. But then, like, he catches a car that's thrown at him, and there's a human inside it. He's like, I don't care. He throws the car anyway, and the guy gets out and lives. And I'm wondering if they're showing us these public perceptions because that's going to influence his future power levels. Is that he becomes this? Because none of this is secret. This is not Jujutsu Kaisen where it's all we fight demons in the shadows. It is, hey, we're on the street. Chainsaw Man is here. He's battling a bat demon. We're gonna bring you the news at 6. You know,
We just leveled a building.
It is, yeah. It is out in the open for all to see. They interview these people on the news. They talk about Chainsaw Man. I'm wondering.
Is Denji that smart?
No, I don't think Denji's doing it on purpose. But I'm wondering if, especially since to Denji, like he warns some people away just because he happens to do it, but he's not thinking I need to protect humans. He even almost kills a person because he wants to win the fight. I'm just wondering if the public persona he's building is going to affect his power levels in the future.
Gotcha.
So it was 3 people, right, that were on the news?
There's the lady,
Yeah.
a child and his father, and then the guy in the car.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it was a child and his father. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and the first 2 had good things to say about him, and then the other guy was
the
like,
guy's
he said he didn't care about me.
Right.
Then he burned my car.
It was just odd that they showed that right after telling that scene, and I'm wondering if those are going to be linked, but it never came up again, so I'm probably swinging wildly.
Well, I guess the part that confused me is I still don't understand why he said that about the guy in the car, because he did go to save the parent and child. So he
I
clearly
think it was
does.
just because the bat demon was goading him. So he was like, I'm going to be
bravado.
contrarian. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I guess that makes sense. He is 16. Don't tell me.
Yeah, don't tell
All
me what to do. I don't care about this guy.
He wins the fight. He slices Bat Demon's stomach open. Power wakes up, and she's like, "What? After everything I did to betray you, why would you save me?" And Denji just takes that hand squeezy motion and points at her chest. This is also, again, beautifully animated. Like I just had this thought of like, that was really well drawn. That's really good hand animation. And she's like, yeah, okay, I guess that's fair. And then he starts to reach his arm, and his arm explodes.
Well, he gets excited and like puts it up like in celebration,
Yeah, that's right.
and then it right at the forearm.
Oh, I thought he was reaching, but you're right. He was like power out, and then his arm's gone. And there's another demon who apparently was friends with Bat Demon. It's Leech
Mate.
Demon.
Yeah, they were mates.
That's my man.
Yeah. And this is the grossest demon in the whole series. Even the ones made out of body parts are better than.
I thought it was Earthworm Demon, but I know they said Leech, but man, it looked like Earthworm.
Yeah, it looks like an earthworm, but it has like earthworm boobies hanging off it too.
It's so gross.
So weird.
So it's like, hey, it tells Denji leave so I can eat these 2 on the ground, and Denji's like, nope, I gotta squeeze those things. And he turns on his chainsaw, and only a tiny little blade comes out of his face. And his face doesn't transform. So he still has a human face with just this little blade. He doesn't have enough strength left to turn into full Chainsaw Man anymore. And he decides to fight anyway. And this is probably one of my favorite fights because he's like blocking with his regular arms and he's getting flung around and he's having to run up and like push his face into the demon.
There's a couple times where she nails him alongside the head, and it like makes one of his eyes bulge out a little. So he's got like one eye that's circular, and the other eye is a regular eye, and he starts screaming maniacally and laughing.
And she starts making fun of him for like, you're doing all this to squeeze a boob. That's so stupid. And he's like, all right, we're gonna have a dream fight. My dreams versus your dreams. I'm sick of being told my dreams aren't okay. That felt very shonen, but also, again, Leech Demon's right, so it was weird.
And he basically loses.
He loses.
Like, he does a ton of damage, but he basically loses.
He almost wins, but gets impaled by her tongue at the last second. But then a giant fox head jumps out of the ground and eats it. And he's saved. And it's Aki and his team, and the rest of his team. They showed up and saved him.
And this is where we find out that Aki has a contract with the Fox Demon.
Right. Which, one thing I loved about the Fox Demon is that we should discuss contracts a little bit more. Because, again, what I liked about him is that you could have one person like has his hands and one person has his head. So when you make contracts with demons, you have to give them something. But it's not, hey, every person with a contract with me has to give me an eyeball. It's, hey, I like you. I'm only going to ask for this. Or I like you. I'm going to give you this part of my power. It's very temperamental and just their impression of you. So he has to peel off strips of flesh from his arms to feed to the fox demon, and he can call its head whenever he wants. But we meet a guy later who can use its claws. We don't figure out their price. But yes, I found that fascinating because, just their personality, how they're feeling that day determines the cost.
Make a charisma check.
Yeah.
Right? Basically.
So Denji wakes up in the hospital. His arm has been reattached.
And they mentioned, like, we I don't know if they gave him a blood transfusion, but as soon as they started his healing effect, they just put the arm close to his other, like, the part, and it's just like, what? Nope.
Mm-hmm.
No surgery required.
He does ask, like, did power try to kill you? And Denji's like, I don't know. And they're like, we saw you got hit and dragged into a building. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, all right, I'm going to let this slide. But from now on, you're going to do whatever I say. Denji's like, yeah, whatever. I don't even care. So they let power go. And then Aki reports back to Makima, and he's like, nah, I guess we don't know why they were out there. Definitely wasn't power trying to kill him. Which, of course, Makima can see right through. So her decision is power lives with them now. And if Aki thought Denji was a bad roommate, power's the worst. I do not take baths. I do not flush my feces.
You look at the toilet, it's just like this heap of toilet paper.
But after a night with her, she offers Denji her chest.
Okay, it's even worse because he's literally cleaning the toilet of her crap when she walks in. Like, that would ruin it right there. You can't do that right then.
Yeah, well, it's a 16-year-old, right?
Okay,
like,
you have a point. But man,
there's not a lot that would turn that off for that offer.
The mood, like, but you're right. He's 16.
And so she offers him 3 squeezes.
3 squeezes because he saved her, saved Meowie, and then saved her again, right?
Yeah, he didn't turn her in to Aki.
Okay,
right.
So 3 squeezes on her succulent chest, and this is where the episode ends. And it's one of the greatest anime cliffhangers ever because, like I've mentioned, I watched the first 4 episodes, and I've waited so long to find out if he ever got to touch these boobs.
Well, he does.
He does. And so I usually start before the other guys because I'm taking notes. It takes me longer to watch the series. And I texted you guys and I said, Jeremy, boob physics are the best I've ever seen. Not in like Jiggly Hunter DxD style. I just meant like when he grabs that chest, that is the most realistic. And there's a lot in anime. This sounds like a weird topic, but we all know it's an anime trope. So many hands on so many chests going squeeze, squeeze. It is something we've all seen 100 times, no matter what anime you watch. I don't even like it. It's stupid.
It's usually an accident.
Right. It's a joke that's anime just can't get away from. I actually hate the joke.
Right.
This looked real, and I was like, wow.
Animation budget again.
Again, I felt uncomfortable. Like this wasn't silly. This wasn't funny. This wasn't like grabbing a balloon. This was.
Well, I mean, it had its funny moments. Like the fact that when he does it the first
Yes.
time, the pad
The
falls
pad
out.
falls out.
And he's like, "What's that?" and then from that moment on, you can tell it's registering on his face already that this is not what he thought it was going to be. This is not living up to what he's hyped it up to be in his head. And I started cracking up when that happened because that's amazing storytelling.
The after effects of this scene is probably some of the best like learning or like lived experience results that I've ever seen in when it comes to like romance, because he even when he ends up talking to Makima about it, and he's just like, yeah, it was just so again disenchanted with this experience,
to the point where he's even saying, if I ever like pick another thing I'm as a goal, is it just going to be as crappy as this when I reach it?
Right. And I really like that because, like you said, it's very much a trope to grab the boob, and it's always this like nosebleed and like silliness, and like there was none of that. It was almost somber. His disappointment,
and the whole time. Go ahead.
Yeah, this flood of disappointment for him to be like, I can't believe that wasn't like, I thought it was going to be this like explosion of satisfaction and nothing. So
that's later.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more. But but I thought that the perfect foil for this, or maybe he was the foil, I don't know which one of them was the foil, but the fact that, well, we're seeing this on him in this scene, that he's completely like, this is not hitting him the way he thought it was going to. Power is not paying attention at all. She's just like, and it's not that she's necessarily enjoying it. It's that she is like, this is a gratuitous expression of how great she is in her own mind. Like she's giving this pleasure to him, and it is the best gift, amazing. And she doesn't even notice, like when she gets up and he's just kind of stuck paralyzed because he's so disappointed. Like it doesn't register with her at all that he's disappointed. Instead, she's just like, yeah, that was amazing. I know that you're welcome. Power out. Mic drop. You know? So oblivious.
Yep. And so yeah, after like Jason said, after a few somber scenes of him just, what is life anymore? He has that conversation with Makima, who then does her again with. We just had a scene where a character is grabbing a woman's chest, which should be very sensual, and was just awkward and weird. And then she with just putting her teeth on his thumb and like just feel the pressure and know the pressure of me biting your thumb. And I was like, oh my lady, that's pretty good. I'm gonna write that one down. Valentine's Day is coming up, you know. It might have passed already. Yeah, it passed for when this comes out. That's some of the best sensual writing I've seen in fiction in a while. It was good.
Yeah, it's
and
a very
so
good...
evil too.
Yes, very evil.
It was 100% manipulation.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the whole. She rubbed his face, she took his hand and put it on her face, and like that was just so much more, like you said, Troy, sensual than the bathroom scene.
And he touches her chest too. She
takes his hand and puts it on there, but it's so much more impactful because of what had just transpired. And so it also showed like power is power. And then, Makima is a mature woman.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. She understands humans very well. Whether she is a human with contracts or is a devil, she understands humans very well and knows exactly how to manipulate them. Yeah. But I thought it was really cool, too, in the sense that like you were saying, Troy, the fact that this happens in so many other anime, this is basically a statement of that's all silly, that's all juvenile, and it
Yes.
really isn't worth what you think it's worth. This is what a
This is
real
where
experience is.
This is where it's at. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, good thought. Speaking of her manipulations, though, so the manipulation is, hey, there's this devil. It's the gun devil, and it's so powerful that we literally can't find it, and it could destroy like populations at a time. And it rose into power. I don't know if I've ever seen anime do this. It ties into 9/11 and gun violence and all these things, that are, of course, in the news everywhere. And talk about, hey, fear has been ramping up and it's getting stronger and stronger, and we got to take this thing down. And the only way we can find it is by getting pieces of it, which other demons are swallowing. Hey, this is very Battle Shonen anime, isn't it?
It's very Jujutsu Kaisen.
That is it's a book right out of, or a page right out of Jujutsu Kaisen with the fingers.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have a reason to keep fighting small guys so you can build up to your big guy. But yeah, they got to find these pieces. Other demons are swallowing them for power. We kill those demons. We take the pieces. We put them together. Eventually, it'll get big enough. It'll draw itself to the main body because the bullets from the gun devil are all drawn to each other. That's the plan. And if he kills the gun devil, she will grant any one wish he has. Any wish? Any wish.
She's giving him a new goal.
Yeah. And so yeah, he's all in. He's gonna kill the gun devil. She's like, it's almost impossible, and everyone will die. He's like, nope, I'm gonna do it. I got this. During this scene, to explain the gun devil's power, this is crazy though. What we were just watching, again with the sensuality, and then we see, to explain the gun devil, it's a flashback of Aki and his little brother, who was sickly and annoying to him, and he takes him out, and then he has this one bonding moment with him. He's like, okay, I'll take you out to play catch. Run back to the home, little boy who's definitely not going to die in a second, and get your baseball mitt. And then, boom, house gone. Just gone. And that's Aki's reason for joining all this and hunting the gun devil. But that's how they used to explain the gun devil to us. The swinging rapidly from one emotion to the other. And then we see them get sent on a job, and they do think because they carry around the bullets on chains, and they know, okay, there's a bullet nearby. So they go to the hotel with the rest of the team. So we're going to meet the rest of the team. Only one we're really going to talk about, but you guys can mention the other two if you want. One I did like, but she's just kind of a one note, a very fun note. I like her note. Anyway, Himino, who is Aki's senior partner, his original partner, and he joined after her last partner died. And then her two rookies are Arai, who's the guy with scars on his face, and then Kobina, who's the anxiety attack in human form.
Yes.
I think she's a little more important that we should probably at least touch on her, but
she definitely has it. And I was waiting for her moment. She has her moment, and I was waiting for okay, no, there's you don't put a character who's sitting there timidly the whole time and not have them pop off. She's got to pop off at some point.
Well, I'm wondering if she even has a contract. But it was funny because I think in this scene, Aki asks, are they how are the rookies? And Himina basically says, yeah, she's timid, but she's got the moves, and she proves that. But yeah, she's also very mentally fragile.
All right, so we'll start with Himino though. What do you guys think of Himino?
What a complex character. Really, really fascinating. Actually, I really like her. This underlying fear that she's just gonna lose partner after partner. But also this mantra of, in order to do this business, you've got to have a screw loose. Was fantastic. And also her contract was pretty neat. And I think that's one of the really great things about this anime is like everyone's contracts are just so vastly different. Um, but yeah, she's funny. I like her banter with Aki. She obviously has a thing for Aki. Um, and yeah,
Yeah. She almost doesn't feel like she belongs in the anime, like with the other characters, just because of her level of complexity, and
Mhm.
because when you do, and really, I think this only started at the party episode and like after the party episode, so it probably has more to do with her role in the story, but it really focused on her um, emotional connection to the other characters and her motivations, and they just even what we were shown wasn't the actual complete story. We find out more later about her character. She's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't have too much more to say about her specifically, but she left a big impression on me.
Um, in an anime with great characters like Power and Makima, who I just are fascinated by both of them. Himino ended up stealing the show for me because of the very complexity you mentioned. Um, she's so scared of being alone. The fact that she's trying to force Haki to become a smoker just so she doesn't have to smoke
Yes.
alone anymore,
Yeah.
but also at the same time is trying to get him to quit the job so that he won't die. That's such a strange, like, I'm trying to poison you. I also don't want you to come to any harm, and that's that complexity, right? She's pulling him while trying to push him out at the same time. Also, that she's clearly has feelings for Aki, and he does not feel the same way for her. And the way he feels about Makima makes her make decisions with Denji, and all these layers. And then, I mean, if you've seen it, and we're in the spoiler section, she's the character who dies. To have a character this complex, this early die, completely caught me off guard. Her death is fantastically done, and I just she's the character I've thought about the most since I got done watching it. When there's a guy with chainsaws that come out of his face, like it shouldn't be
Yeah.
this way, but she made such an impression on me that huge points to her.
and also like brave for the anime.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
even though what she does is very very creepy. we call it
Yeah.
out all the time, but she also points out herself
Oh,
out as creepy, and she's a very flawed bad person for doing it, and that's part
Yeah.
of her character.
One theory that we can talk about much later, that I forgot that I wanted to bring up. I'll just say that I think Makima might be playing Star Wars Emperor.
Whoever wins, she wins.
Yeah, she like playing both sides kind of
All the
thing.
strings on both sides. I'm a little afraid to make too many theories because the manga is so far ahead. There's so many
Right.
answers known. I just feel like I'll look silly. Sillier
Baka.
than we already do.
I don't know, it's fun.
Yeah.
Arai, he's not gonna do much, but what did you guys do think of Kobina, the little mousy girl?
I find her funny and a little fascinating because later, she snaps mentally a few times, and it always ends up really bad for someone. And it's funny that her main weapon is basically a kitchen knife.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of sad that it was this or sex work, and it's like,
Right.
that's an awful going to this highly dangerous field.
Because her sister is so beloved by their parents, she has to work to support her sister.
Well, and doesn't she have like 8 sisters? There's another scene where they're like she has 8 sisters.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, I think she does. I swear that's what they said, which that reminded me of the scene where they mentioned that, you know, she's working here because it was that or sex work to support her sibling going to school. What about the others? Like, is she the worst of the group, or are they all doing that? It's such a weird situation that I even kind of wonder if that's the true story. Like, I don't know. She's such a weird wild card. You don't know
Yeah.
if she's going to break and hurt your team or break and hurt the bad guys.
She has the best line in the whole series, which is in the second to final episode. Aki looks at her. He's like, "Why are you still here? Bonuses come out next month."
Yes.
I thought you would have quit by now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a real one right there. That's a real
Right,
life
hit right here. Like, yeah.
All right. So yeah, they go to this hotel. They're searching around. They're not finding much, and then this little head jumps out at them, and Himino grabs it with her ghost hand. That's her power. She has the hand of a ghost she can control, and she grabs it, and then Power kills it. And Power's like, "I slay the demon. I am the winner." They're like, okay, well that clearly wasn't it because that thing was super weak. So they go up to the next level, but they find that they're on the same level. So they start trying to go up and down, but they keep landing on the same place. They go into one of the rooms, and the window literally opens up into the room on the other side of the building. So they're just in a infinite loop of this floor, and time is frozen as well. To handle this, Himino is trying to conserve her smokes. Denji is taking a nap. Aki's hunting. Power's thinking how to win a Nobel Peace Prize. And
Ari's
Kobe-
in a room having a panic attack.
yeah, Ari and Kobina are both freaking out.
And Kobina freaks out the moment they start to suspect something's wrong.
Yep. Like,
She's just
constantly ready.
constantly ready to lose her mind.
Yep.
This is, what happens in episode 8 is really cool. And what happens in episode 12 is kind of cool. I'll get to that. This is my favorite, like, demon and demon fight. Just because it's so different from anything else we've seen. And really shows how imaginative both the writer is and how imaginative they can be with these demon powers. You can take any abstract idea, twist its power around, create a power out of it, and then make it a thing that they have to deal with. So this is the Infinity Devil, who has trapped them in Infinity, and
In his stomach specifically.
right,
Mm-hmm.
because when they killed the head, it ate them, or was the 8th floor its
The 8th floor is its stomach.
right?
Okay.
Okay,
But also what's interesting is this demon has a task. It specifically trapped this group because it wants Denji's heart. We don't find out why just yet. Actually, I don't know if we ever find out. But
okay, guys, something is up with Pochita.
yeah.
We don't know what it is, but clearly that demon was way more important than just a little dog with a chainsaw nose.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he goes, yeah, you give me Denji's heart willingly, and I'll let you guys go.
Right. And they start arguing whether to do it. Aki's like,
And
no.
I love that Power's just like, yeah, tear it out. I'll do it. And Aki has to remind her, like, fiends can't make contracts. It's not going to work even if you do it.
This episode is literally called Kill Denji, and they talk about, like, there's Team Kill Denji, and then there's Aki, who's like, no, we're not killing anyone. Aki's like, well, I'll just use the sword. He carries a katana on his back, and apparently the sword is a sword that can curse and kill anything, but every time he uses it, it takes a year off his life.
Did they say year, or did it just time off his
Just
life?
said time.
I guess it's time, but at the end, he
so
has
it's
2
like,
years left. So I would assume it was time. Or years.
So how many times has he used it and all that?
Anyway, Himino will not let him, again, because she doesn't want another partner to die. Keeping him alive is a very important part to her. Eventually, the demon, like, what was a head is now a massive body parts, and it's swallowing the hallways. Power eats all the food. The hotel turns on its side. and Kobina tries to stab Denji, and Aki takes the blade for her, and so Denji's like, I don't want to owe you anything, so I'm gonna just do this.
And
So,
mind your own business next time.
Yeah, yep. So he jumps into the mouth of the demon and starts sawing it. And then whenever he starts getting weak, he bites a chunk off of it, refuels, and keeps going for 3 days straight.
Right, because this thing, just as it takes damage, continues to grow.
Right, it's infinity.
But Genji finds out it can feel pain, so I'm just going to inflict as much pain as possible till it wants to die. One thing that we find out during his fight down there, because they go, Aki, why'd you take the blade for him? He's like, I need as many people as possible that want to go after the gun demon, and I'm not going to let him die because I need him.
Yeah. Little do they know, they wouldn't have been able to kill him anyway.
Yeah.
So Denji wins. 3 days later, the devil's like, here's my heart. I'm done.
Please make it stop.
Please kill me.
And then they get out, and he passes out, and Himino has an idea, like, hey, since our division has finally all met and are alive right now, let's have a drinking party. So they have a dinner, office dinner, and even Makima shows up, and they're all talking about introducing each other. And
Himina also promised Denji if he killed the demon, she would kiss him. And so that was a new motivation for him.
So Denji's super conflicted. He's about to get his first kiss, but the girl he wants to have his first kiss with is here too, and he doesn't want her to see it. So he's like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Well, Himino decides for him. Because when she and we find out she's kissed everybody. When she drinks, she's that person. And she grabs him and she kisses him and she throws up in his mouth. And then Power points out that Denji has a habit. If nutrients enter his mouth, he will swallow. Because he used to have to eat out of the garbage. Spitting food out is alien to Denji because he had to survive. So he swallows it.
Oh, it's the worst.
Other stuff that happens here, we find out they try to get like information out of Makima. She doesn't really give much. And then that night when they're leaving, Denji is carried away by Himino. So now Denji's drunk. He wasn't drinking alcohol, but now he's ingested a lot of alcohol. So he's drunk, and Himino carries him home. This is important. We see most of the scene with the camera from Denji's point of view. Not always his eyes, but at least behind him. He wakes up in her bed. The room is spinning. She climbs on top of him, and then eventually lays next to him, pressed up against him, and asks him, does he want to do it? And the episode ends. Another cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And then the after credits that I really like play. Then episode 8 begins. And they go back a few steps where we see Himino come home, drop him off on the bed, take a shower, grab another beer, find him in her bed, end up climbing on top of him, and the scene replays. Except for this freaking anime with so much money reanimated the entire scene. They didn't reuse a single shot. Now the camera is always behind her, from her point of view. We're looking down on her on top of Denji.
I'm going, is this rotoscoped again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no reason to reanimate this scene. Every anime plays back a little of what just happened, especially because normally it's been a week, here's a little recap. I don't know if I've ever seen them fully reanimate it from a whole new point of view, but it's the exact same scene. It's not like we needed another character perspective on this scene.
And this isn't the only time they do this either.
It's the most extra thing I've ever seen. I've been calling it the flex. They are saying we are better than anybody else making anime right now. We'll animate whatever we want, whenever we want. I can't get this scene out of my head. It's my favorite scene in the whole anime and episode 8 gets crazy. This is about to get crazy animation. Yeah. But this was just extra for no reason other than they could. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But also I wish every anime had this budget.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that it contributed having it from the secondary perspective because it changed at least my idea of Himeno's mental state. Like when we saw it from his perspective at the end of episode 7, it
Mm.
seemed like she was a little bit more lucid. But when we saw it in episode 8, I get the impression. I mean, she was even getting more beer out of the fridge. Like she didn't even
She
know how
questioned
he
like,
got
how
in the
how'd
bed.
you get here? Yeah,
Exactly.
like why are you here?
Did I put you here? And so then it made it a little bit easier for me to deal with the fact that, you know, he's 16 and she's completely out of it. Doesn't excuse it, but even she calls that out the next morning. So it made the situation a little bit easier to deal with.
So the scene goes on. She does. So we get to the scene of, do you want to do it? And he's like, what? And then she says the F word.
Mm.
And then she starts undressing him because I think he says yes.
Yeah,
Starts
he does.
undressing him and finds a lollipop in his pocket. And she's like, what's this in your pocket? And he remembers that talking
Himeno
with
did it again.
Makima about his
Makima did
kiss.
it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
He talked with Makima about his kiss. My first kiss, I had got chunks blown in my mouth, and is that all I'm gonna ever taste every time I have a kiss? And she's like, well, eventually you're gonna have lots of kisses. And she puts the lollipop in his mouth, get those hooks in deep, and so
Yeah.
he decides, no, I want my first time to be with Makima, rejecting Himeno, who's bummed about that because it's Makima, not because she got rejected. They have breakfast in the morning, and she's like, did I try to take advantage of you? Am I going to prison? And he's like, no, I wouldn't do it with a barf hag, he says. And then, again, he mentions Makima, and you could tell, like, that bugs her.
Mm.
And it's not because of Denji, it's because of Aki also having the same feeling. She keeps losing to Makima. All right. Then we get to the good stuff.
They make a pact that
they
she's
do.
going to help him get with Makima if he helps her get with Aki.
And she wants to be his friend.
And she'll give him breakfast, and he's elated.
Mm-hmm.
Makima gets on a train to Kyoto and is immediately assassinated by civilians carrying guns. Which, again, is Japan. This is a big deal. This is like...
Yeah. Nobody has guns in Japan.
But apparently, lots of people do right now, because all the demon hunting government forces are attacked by random civilians pulling out guns and shooting them. We see Himeno's team. What's her name?
Basically, all the demon hunters that we've met for like either peripheral or semi main characters, everyone either gets attacked or immediately shot in the head. And it's like, it was so shocking because I was like, one, this is super brave for an anime to do in season 1 where you've built up a bunch of characters. And then 2, like the main person, you just executed her.
Yeah.
Kabino and Arai are shot by a little old lady.
Yeah.
Then we go to Denji's team, and they're eating ramen together with Himeno, and a guy starts yelling about them about the crappy ramen they're having. He reveals that he's the grandson of the Yakuza boss that Denji used to work for, and then he pulls out a gun, shoots Denji in the head, shoots Himeno in the stomach, and then stuff goes crazy, like the building blows up. He turns into the Katana Devil. He's basically Chainsaw Man, but with swords.
Yep. Really weird. And this is probably the one thing that I was a little bit uncomfortable with, just in the sense that everything else, the writing was so great, everything was so cool. And then to see another character that basically was so similar to Denji, when Denji's this one-off, nobody knows how he did what he did, you know, because he's not a fiend, he's not a devil, he's not a human. What is he? How did this happen? It's never happened before. Well, no, it happened with this other guy, and this other guy happens to be the grandson of the guy that was using Denji. So, like, I'm sure that there's going to be somewhere that the story will make sense of this, and it'll be great. But right now, at the introduction of the character, only halfway through the first season, it's weird. I don't.
It's especially weird to just drop it without any like building it up, or like maybe having that character appear in episode 1 so that we saw that he survived, or wasn't there for some reason.
Yeah.
One
It felt
thing
like.
I'll say though
Go ahead.
is that yeah, at this moment I was like, are you kidding? Are they MCUing this? Like,
Right?
like a guy
Exactly.
with the same powers. That
Uh-huh.
I wasn't a big fan of. But to be fair, Makima didn't say that Denji was unique. She said that it's very rare.
I thought she said she didn't know what it was and she'd never seen it before.
No, she told him outright that this doesn't happen very often.
Because
I
even the
honestly think
fox.
I think the right answer is somewhere in between though. I thought she said she hadn't seen it, but
Yeah.
it was possible to happen.
Hmm.
And she knew of cases that it had happened.
Yeah,
I
something
think.
like that.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, even the fox demon.
But yeah, the
Who's
whole have the main first bad demon that like stood up to Denji be like exact powers. I was like, am I watching Iron Man? Like, what's going on?
right? Exactly. Yep. And I also thought it was really weird that the fox demon's head gets like cut open by this guy right away. Ever since that, for quite a while after that, not ever since, but for quite a while after that, I was wondering, did he kill the fox demon? Like, what happened
But
there?
this does ruin the Fox Demon contract. The Fox Demon has refused to be part of Aki's team after this moment.
Well, at
Yeah,
least
so
for a
it's not
while.
dead.
Like yeah, exactly. It's pissed at Aki, but I don't know if it has revoked the contract completely or is just refusing to answer right now. It might come back later.
All right. Aki beats Katana Devil with his sword, cursing him and killing him. But then,
Which is one of the coolest like
yeah,
final death kind of like spell thing I've
reminds me
seen in
of
a while.
Final Fantasy Summon.
Yes.
Some of the like darker,
Yes.
cooler ones from like Final Fantasy 8 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but then then the mastermind of these bad guys, not counting the gun devil himself or herself, whoever they are, this girl in a red sweatshirt shows up, and she's got a contract with the Snake Devil, and she revives Katana Man. Now I have an issue with her. Your issue with the Katana Devil, I have an issue with
Snake
her.
Girl.
She's the mastermind. We get no information. We don't know how she's rallied all this. And when they do finally get to a place where we can maybe talk to her and get any kind of backstory, she commits suicide and is out of the story completely. It is so she's just a random character who holds the cards to all the information we need.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, are we gonna come
Well, I
back
think
to
that's
her
on
and talk about
purpose.
her? It's weird for her to be the boss of all this and set all this up
Well,
and us never to even learn anything about her.
we learn that she's working with the gun demon, and that's she got the guns from the gun demon to bring into the country to hand them out to all those goons.
And in exchange, she's got to get Denji's heart. But
Right.
like, is there a bigger picture to
Well,
it?
obviously,
She
but
just feels random to me. Like we need
Uh,
literally anyone could fit that spot.
Yeah, that's one thing I was gonna say is that it kind of felt like the story was T-boned, right? Like the story from episode 1 to episode 7 is just going along, and it's set in a nice pattern, nice routine. Like we're learning about the characters, we've got new characters introduced. You could almost say that it's just standard shonen at that point, and so you've got a trajectory plotted out. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the story just gets T-boned with everybody on the team getting killed and this big fight happening and these two characters showing up who can just outdo everybody here.
Right, and like you said, one is super connected to our main character, and the other one is not barely connected to anything.
Yeah, doesn't matter at all. And then dies. Well, of course they don't die here; they die later. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, they're probably my only real nitpick with
Mhm.
Chainsaw Man is these two films. Cause I remember thinking he's the grandson of the Yakuza guy. I remember
Yeah.
saying that and being like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. And then I just kept being like, okay. And then she's gonna go on. She's gonna escape. Her villain type always escapes and then makes more plans. Like, no, she committed suicide and we'll never see her again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I
glad she
actually
was
loved
here.
that. No, I loved that because it was we have a door to open to find out what's going on, and then I don't know, that the denial of a reward switch in my brain clicked in. I was like, oh, that's why I need more episodes, because now we need to actually
Masochist.
find out what's going on. It's why I play
Oh,
Path of Exile, okay?
that makes sense. It
I
all
will-
makes sense now.
I will say I'm glad she died because she's the gore that I can't handle. I hate fingernail stuff. I hate it. And her
Oh, yeah.
her
Oh,
contract is to call the snake devil is to lose a fingernail, and they keep showing her fingernails popping off, and I was like, no, I hate
Stop
you.
doing that.
She was the worst. Okay, so
I should-
that was the gore that bugged me.
Yeah. I should clarify that when I talk about this storyline being like T-boned by this, at the time I was just in shock trying to figure out like, do I like this or do I not like this? Because I'm so sad that all these characters died that I just got introduced to. And especially when episode 8 culminates with like Himeno's death as well. And that was way worse. Like you put all of their deaths together and it doesn't equal her death. And
What
and
this
so
tells me, however, though, is
uh-huh.
it means that not only are there consequences for real high stakes consequences,
Mhm.
but that anybody's on the chopping block. I mean, except for Denji in power. Actually,
And Aki.
Aki's
Probably.
gonna go at some point, right?
Yeah, according to the future devil, yes. But it's going to be awesome.
Right. But that's funny, Troy, that the fingernails got you, but not the Hoth speeder intestines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was.
literally guts everywhere. I'm like, yeah, no, nothing gets me anymore. Fingernail pops off. Disgusting. Censor this stuff. What's going on? Think of the children. Yeah. All right. So yeah, a lot's gonna happen. I'm not gonna be able to describe it accurately. Himino calls in the ghost devil to help, and the ghost devil's like, I don't wanna. That girl's scary.
Yeah.
It's like, and Himino's bleeding internally, realizes she's probably drowning in her own blood. Is like, no, I'm going to give you everything. You give me everything. And so the whole ghost demon appears, who has shown up in the OP. We've seen in the OP. That finally appears, and then it's
What a cool
devoured by the
design.
snake. It loses.
What a cool design for a ghost demon, though.
Yeah.
And as the ghost demon is losing, Himino's body parts are just disappearing. Arm, legs, and then just she's completely gone. And Aki sees this. Power and Aki get away. Chainsaw Man starts fighting Katana Man. Chainsaw Man takes a goon as hostage. Like, I'll kill this guy. And
Well, and also, like, the reason Chainsaw Man gets back up is because even though Ghost is dead and Himeno's
oh,
dead,
that's right.
one
Ghost hand
hand,
pulls his chain.
disembodied hand, comes and
Or
pulls
pulls
the
his-
chain.
Right.
Yep.
Because then that all ties back into Himino's like, you got to be crazy to do this job, and Denji's just the right crazy we need.
Mhm.
Get Denji going. So yeah, Chainsaw Man's up. He takes a hostage. Katana Man cuts them both in half. Picks up Denji by his head handle, carries him away.
Oh, okay. So one of my favorite scenes happens kind of in between this, and it's the dudes on the train that just got done executing the demon hunters. They're standing there going, okay, put away your guns. We're going to try and like blend into the crowd. And also they turn around and here's bloody Makima standing there with a
Same expression.
smirk on her face.
Yeah.
And they're just looking at her like, and then they finally get to the destination. She steps out. She's like, yeah, I'm going to need a change of clothes. And it pans to them, and they all have these enormous holes in their chests. And that's all the information we get. And it's like, oh, she's scary.
Yeah.
It's more than that too, because she comes out covered in blood, and they're like, "Oh, are you okay?" And she's like, "No, it's not my blood." But we had seen her covered in her blood already.
Mhm.
And she's like, "No, it's not my blood." And it's like, wait, but it is. How are you alive?
And then, yeah, then this is where she's like, yeah, can you get me 30 of the worst convicts and rent out the temple with the highest level temple you can?
And so she does this ritual which kills each convict. They have to say the name of one of the bad guys who are murdering her team, and then she puts her hands together and like smushes her hands together, and then we see each bad guy disappear in an invisible smush. Like whatever, if their two hands had squished them, we get to see that without the hands being visible.
Yeah.
Over and over. One grabs a woman and just gets smushed next to the woman, and blood flies all over her.
But as soon as the smush happens, so she goes, "Hey, convict, I need you to say this name," and then she squishes, and then the guy that said the name falls over dead. So she's using the life of a convict to then take it. So she's taking 2 lives every time she does this.
Yeah, the trade has to be a life for a life. That's got to be what it is.
Yeah.
Then we see Kobina survived her attack because the guy with her took the bullet for her, and she murdered the old lady with the gun. And she shows up and rescues Denji to the point where she makes Katana Man and Snake Lady flee because she's so good. They send the snake after her, and she jumps up and runs along it, and then cuts off like one of Katana Man's hands, grabs a gun, starts shooting at him, shoots him in the back. She's like John Wicking it up. Here.
Right.
And then uses Denji as a human shield when they shoot back at her, but saves him. So he's okay.
And she's just sitting there saying, "I'm sorry I tried to kill you. I'm sorry I tried to kill."
Sobbing.
She's such
She
a
is
lunatic.
mess. Yeah, absolute mess of a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
So Makima returns with the 2 agents she had met in Kyoto. She brings them back to Tokyo because they only work over there. They don't want to work in Tokyo,
And
but they're going to help.
to tell her, they're like, "Okay, just so we're clear, we don't want to come work for you."
Yeah.
But they come with her, and then one of the agents comes and reports to her, and he's like, "Okay, but I quit. I'm quitting." He's one of the survivors. He quits. And she's like, "All right, well, that's too bad." And he's like, "Did you know this was going to happen? Did you? You always foresee everything. You know this was going to happen." She's like, "I'm sorry, you are no longer part of the team. I cannot reveal that information. I hope you have a good day." Just wandered off. It's like, just say yes at this point,
Right?
And that is a plot point that Makima saw this coming and was okay with it because now she gets full control over all the surviving super agents and fiends and devils on the team, which we find out there's a lot more of fiends and devils. Yeah, now we're on 10. Aki wakes up. So this is the scene where Denji and Power are in his hospital room fighting over the apples that were brought for him. And they're like, "We're not here because we care about you. We came for the apple sustenance." And they leave, and Denji leaves 1 apple, and he's like, "Don't say don't give you anything." And he leaves, and I'm like, those apples were for him.
Yeah.
Take them all. Denji comes back because he forgot his manga, and he hears Aki crying for Himino dying. And then those 2 Kyoto agents come, and they're like, "Hey, you need a new contract if you're going to keep doing this, so we're going to help you with that." Meanwhile, Denji and Power go meet their new trainer, who is
this guy.
He says just call him Master, so I'm going to say Master. And he had trained Himino as well. And he's like, "Hey, normally I do regular training, but you guys can die and come back to life, right, with blood. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm the best demon hunter in the world, if you could beat me, you must be pretty good. So I'm just going to keep killing you until you can figure out how to beat me." And he does for hours.
Snaps their necks.
Uses their own weapons against them, slashes their throat open. And then at night, he's like, "Well, I'm tired. I'm going to go home." And they have to walk home. And then when they're walking home, they're like, "We must come up with a smart plan like in an anime or a manga." And so the next morning, they wear glasses so they can be smart anime characters. And they set a trap for him when he comes to get them. And it fails. He ends up beating them. But he's like, "Hey, that was actually better. You thought of stuff, but you didn't plan on counterattacks and stuff." And he's like, "So that was good for today. I'll leave." And then he stops and throws a knife into Denji's face and is like, "Never trust what anyone tells you. You're always on the clock." Master was pretty great. We don't know much about him yet, but this is a cool idea for training compared to most anime.
And he's always drinking. He's always drunk.
Yep. And there's a scene in this where he's sitting and talking to Makima, and he says, I don't know whether you're working for the good guys or working for the bad guys. As long as I think you are working for the good guys, I won't try to kill you, basically. But the moment I think you are working not for the interest of humanity, I'm going to kill you, is basically what he says.
And she says, I'm doing what I think is best for the humans to survive. And he says, I think you're full of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Aki gets taken to meet a new devil, and it's the future devil, who is the shining star of the OP. We didn't mention him, but
He's
his
amazing.
dance to the OP song is
Yes.
amazing. It's always a
awesome.
highlight when he shows up. Anyway, he's like this weirdo guy who's crazy about the future, but Aki's told last time he wanted like an eye, both their eyes and their arm. Like his things are high, so let's hope
a
he
sense
likes
of
you.
taste and smell.
Yeah,
both
it was sense of
eyes.
taste and both eyes. I'm like, well, what is it? How's the devil hunter gonna work then?
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes in and he's like, hey, put your head in my stomach so I can see your future, and then I'll know what price to ask. And he does. He's like, okay, I just want to live in your right eye because I saw your death and it is the worst thing possible, and I've got to be there for that.
Yep. Then he's like, hey, do you want to know? You want to know? Well, here's what happened. And Aki's like,
Yeah.
I don't care.
So now Aki has the ability to see a few seconds into the future. He basically gets a spider sense with this in his eye.
Just a peek.
Training ends because it's time to take on the terrorist organization.
Oh
And-
my god.
And
This is
so,
the best.
Yep.
so the terrorists are in this hotel and they know the good guys are coming for them, but they have an army of zombies left over from the Yakuza down in the basement. They're like, hey, we're gonna be able to survive this because we have this trump card. We have this army.
When does Makima go visit the other Yakuza boss?
Oh, that is the scene. So she goes to visit a Yakuza
This
boss.
is one of
and
my favorites too.
to get the names of all the people that signed up with the gun devil, with the blonde woman, the snake lady, and he's like, hey, I'll give you all the names of our organization, no problem. And she's like, no, I want the names of every member of every organization. He's like, whoa, I can't do that. I'll start a gang war. And she pulls out this bag and she's like, hey, he's like, what is that?
And he's like, you can't pay us off, like,
Right.
because he assumes it's money.
She's like, these are the eyeballs of every loved one of every person in this room. But don't worry, they can be reattached. Just give me the names. I think she's a bad guy.
So I should clarify, working for the good guys doesn't necessarily mean you are a good guy.
Oh yeah,
Right.
true. Yeah, I guess that is the real question.
Yeah, what
Whose side
one
is
of
she
the
on?
henchmen gets a little too upset at this
Uh-huh.
and is gonna do something, and all of a sudden he starts bleeding from the nose and then just falls over dead.
Yep.
And it's like she didn't even turn around.
Oh, she turned and looked at him.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yep. That's all
There
it took,
is-
though.
It is very important whose side she's on, though,
Yes.
because whoever side she's on is the side Denji is on.
Mhm.
More than anything, that matters. I do hope we get to a point where Denji can maybe grow past that. I hope that's maybe the arc they're going for. But I could see him totally just being like, "Oh, you're evil? Cool, I'm evil. Didn't know that. We're evil now."
We're evil. Team evil.
All right. Final battle starts, and we meet a couple crazy characters. There's Shark Fiend, who can jump in and out of any surface like it's water,
And can also like turn his head into a giant shark
Yep.
head and eat
it's a
things.
shark head. There's Violence Fiend, who is just a super powerful fighter, but they have to constantly poison him to keep him weak enough to control because he's
I
so
thought he
strong.
exuded poison. Is that what it is?
No, yeah,
Poison him?
the what are those called? The beak mask.
Yeah, it's the doctor mask.
Yeah, old
Yeah.
Doctor Mask. Yeah, they're poisoning him to keep him at controllable levels
Oh
because
my
he's
god.
so powerful because he's violence. He's
Yeah.
Then there's Spider Devil, who's a woman who can turn into a spider form, and Angel Devil, who seems like a pretty nice guy actually.
Yeah. Don't let him touch you.
You can't touch him or you die.
Yeah.
They easily take on the zombies. So then Aki, Denji, and Power get in the elevator or go off to find Katana Man and the blonde woman. Aki
They
ends
want
up,
to capture him alive, right?
yeah, yes. Aki ends up facing the snake woman, and the snake spits out Ghost Demon and summons it and uses it against him, and he's able to fight it pretty well, but eventually catches him. But then he remembers, and he also gets a cigarette from it that reminds him, oh, if you're not afraid of it, it can't see you. So he just calmly walks up and cuts off its head. But you could tell, like, Himino was in there a little bit. That's why he got the cigarette. So he's also fully ending what's left of his friend. And then the crazy girl shows up with a kitchen knife on the snake lady, and she loses.
So Aki yells out, "Don't."
Because she was going to kill her.
He wasn't saying, because the red jacket girl is like, "Snake," and like she was about to give a command, and then he yells, "Don't." It seems like he's saying "don't" to her. No, he's saying "don't"
Right.
to Kimino.
Uh-huh. The knife girl.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Denji has one final battle with Katana Man.
Hold on. Going up the elevator.
Oh, yeah.
Power and Denji.
This is
The
such a
doors
great scene.
open, and it's just a room, like a hallway full of zombies. And Denji's like, "They haven't noticed us. Let's just be quiet, and everything will be fine." And Power's, before this, Power's got an arm of a zombie, and she's just chowing down on it, just to remind you that she's a feral monster. And she's like, "It's meat. I'm not gonna pass up meat."
Yep.
And so she jumps out of the elevator and just starts slashing zombies, spouting off how great she is. And like,
And also,
"Denji has my back."
Yeah, Denji, you have my back. Denji just watches as the elevator doors close. Yeah. Then he runs into Katana Man. They have a quick conversation where Katana Man's like, "You need to take responsibility for killing my grandfather." He's like, "No, I don't feel very bad about it. It seems fine." And so, yeah, then they start fighting. They land on top of the train. Don't tell me that's not a Spider-Man 2 reference. The fight on top of the train.
Right.
But Katana Man cuts off both his arms, and Denji's like, "No, I still got one blade. You can't beat me." And they dash at each other, and he loses his face chainsaw. And Katana Man's like, "Haha!" He's like, "Ha! You're such an idiot. You went for my head. I knew you would." And then Katana Man splits in half, and we see Denji has grown a chainsaw leg from his training, and he actually used his training to beat him.
Yeah, he even calls it out, and he's like, "Didn't you ever hear? Don't ever believe something a demon hunter tells you." So I don't think he actually understood it correctly, because everything a demon hunter says is a lie.
Katana Man in human form wakes up and he's tied together. Denji's like, "Yeah, you're like me. I would just put you back together and you healed. But now we're gonna capture you." And Aki shows up and he's like, "Okay, Aki, we're gonna play a game. We're gonna kick him in the nuts and see who can make him scream the loudest because he killed Himino." and
And at
Aki's
first,
like,
Aki's like, "No."
"No, she wouldn't want that. We're better than that. We have a duty." And then he looks at the cigarette and he's like, "No, all right, I'm going first."
Yeah. What do I get if I win?
Yeah, what do I get if I win? And they nut shot him forever. And then we see some scenes of like them going to dinner. This is kind of the end credit scene. They're making a big dinner feast at the apartment with Power. Makima reports to the council they now have enough bullets that they can find the location of the gun devil. And then Denji dreams of a door that we've been seeing. Actually, was the very first scene of the very first episode, and it's always in the OP. And he hears Pochita telling him, "Do not ever go through the door." And that's the end.
I think that door, again, theory, will reveal why Gun Devil wants his heart so bad. And that's why Pochita doesn't want him to go through the door.
Any thoughts on the final episode?
Fantastic. So much fun. But again, the episode ended and I'm like, I want more. Where's the next episode?
That's
All right.
a sign of a good anime. Yep.
Let's go to our final reviews. Jason, your pick. What do you want to give it?
I objectively have to give it a 5, even though I'm biased. The animation's gorgeous. The soundtrack was great. The writing is just fresh and exciting, and I'm just so invested in a lot of these characters, and also to have the courage to create great complex characters and then off them for decent story reasons like that. You just don't see that. So yeah, 5 out of 5. This was so good.
Yeah, easy 5 out of 5 for me as well. The one big question I have at the end is, how did they get such an amazing budget? Like, with everything else, like, the story is fantastic, the writing is great, the characters are great, and I wonder how well that all of that would have been conveyed. Like, I think it still would have been a 5, even if the animation budget hadn't been so big, and even if they hadn't done such an amazing job with it. But I'm genuinely curious, like, if anybody knows, please, say something in the comments, because I couldn't find anything about budget. So, like, was it just that the manga was so amazing that they knew this was going to be a major hit, so they got a heavy investment? But that's the biggest thing I'm curious about.
For me, if you take out that budget, this is still one of the most creative stories. Like the Infinity Demon, and there is some really cool, never before seen stuff being done here. I actually think it's a bit of a disservice that it is doing anything to do with the Battle Shonen. I think that's actually its one anchor around its neck, is it's still fitting into some of those forms and following some of its rules, like training and stuff. I was like, just be free, do whatever you want. You have the imagination to make it work. Be free, but it is still a 5. This is clearly a great anime. It deserves the praise that it has gotten. And I know a lot of people are bugged by the CGI. I think it's just that's what the future is. And I think as far as CGI goes, this was pretty well done.
Beautiful.
So 5 for me. All right. If you have thoughts on Chainsaw Man, I believe I pronounced that right. You can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can send us a contact us page from our website, theanimebakaclub.com, and that'll get to us. And then you can leave a comment wherever you found the podcast. If that's easiest, YouTube or wherever you are, and that should get back to us as well. Thank you for all the feedback we've got on Gintama, though. I do really appreciate that. Like I said, I don't think we're the fairest format for it, but I absolutely loved hearing why people loved it. That was really cool to see. So,
yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah, a lot better reasons than Space Dandy.
I didn't see anybody mention Space Dandy. No comparison.
Our next
I had to
anime.
get my jab in.
Our next anime will be Mob Psycho 3, and we look forward to discussing that next week, and then we'll figure out more from there. All right, let's go ahead and say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Sayonara.